Nike and Sacai are right back at it with another stellar collaboration. We've already had a bunch of BLAZER mids coming from this line, and we've also had a bunch of the LDV waffles as well. Now we're moving into those BLAZER lows, and they're absolutely right up with the best of the collaborations that have come from this line. I had my hands on a pair of the BLAZER mids for a long time, and they were about half size too small for me. Held on to them, used to bring them out in the videos for quite a few of these kind of collaboration talks, but they unfortunately didn't work out with the green screen, and you could look right through the shoe into the green screen, and half size too small, and then just passed them on and moved them on to one of the best second-hand or resale stores here in Tokyo, Japan for sneakers, called Worm, down in sort of Omotesando, Harajuku district. So so I don't have those anymore to show you guys in hand, but I do have a very in-depth knowledge about these shoes, and I can tell you all the details on them and all the special hits on them and a little bit of the history, especially as Sacai is a brand from right here in Tokyo, Japan, where I've been for 22 years, bringing you guys daily content for about 3 of those years about sneakers and upcoming sneaker releases and sneaker news. These guys, they're talking about August the 4th as a drop date, but I'm like a bit on that. It seems like drop dates have gone out of the window, but it seems like they've gotten very irregular. I read that these guys had already dropped in South Africa for some reason, so and it's just weird how the drops are no longer consistent, you know, area specific. The Americas, Europe and Asia, that kind of thing. South Africa, just one country already got their hands on, I think, one of these, not both of the colorways, and the rest of the world's waiting for them. They're talking about August the 4th. I've actually seen dates like July the 30th also as an option for these guys coming down the line, so I'm not sure when the drop date is. I do know that I'm shooting this video on July the 22nd, which is the day before the Olympics opening ceremony tomorrow for us here in Tokyo, Japan. But you guys will be watching this after the Olympics opening ceremony, because it won't go up onto YouTube for a couple of days. And I love that idea that this thing that's in my future, by the time you're watching this, is in your past. I think that's very, very cool. So the drop date, though, you know, if it is August the 4th and I'm shooting this on July the 22nd, that's a perfect place for my channel. Love to be about a week to 10 days ahead of the drop date to tell you guys what's coming down the line, and take a shoe apart. And that's one of the things I can do very, very well in the terms of these guys, having owned a pair of the mids and know a lot about them. But there's something new to both of these. Now it's the British tan and the iron grey. We've got two different colorways coming here, and for me these mark a sort of step forward in materials. Now it might be that there's other pairs of Sacai BLAZERs out there, mids or lows like these, that have already gone this step forward that I haven't noticed yet. But for me, when I looked at those mids that I used to own, it was all about the materials on the upper were leather. But these guys have made a step forward in the material sense of the word, because they're matching and meshing suede and leather, and that's the main thing about these shoes. Of course, it's huge that they have the double swooshes, double tongues, extra sort of padding around the midfoot and midsole, and there's tons like the mud guards coming up off the side and things like that. But with these guys, the big story is actually the material. So we'll go to the materials first, and then we'll get into the branding hits on there that make these guys an absolutely beautiful shoe. So first things first, materials. I said already, we're talking about suedes and we're talking about leathers, and basically there's two places for the suedes and there's two places for the leather. So let's get into the suedes first, since they're a bigger sort of talking point when it comes to shoes and materials. And to be honest, it's the British tans that make this a little bit easier to see, because brown is easier to see detailing and textures than black, which is such a solid colour. The British tans do have a sort of, there are some people out there comparing them to is it Tom Sachs Mars Yard shoe. I don't actually see it, to be honest. These are too brown, whereas the Mars Yard shoe is too light and kind of beigey, but some people are making that comparison, but it's that shoe that we'll focus in for, especially on the suede. So I suppose we'll do the leathers on the black shoe. So first things first, the suede of the actual upper itself is well worth looking at and getting that detail and noticing the quality of the materials used in there. I think it's the toe that's probably the easiest place to have a look at and see a big kind of large area of that suede on there, a big canvas to paint suede onto, and you get an idea of the quality of the materials on there. And then the second place to look at, and you have to sort of take your your eyes away from the doubling up and the interesting branding on the tongues, which we'll get to in a bit, and look at the rest of the tongues and see the suede that goes in there and builds into that part of the shoe to give you the sort of largest pieces of real estate. Basically, the largest real estate on the upper and the largest real estate on the tongue is all done in that suede. But then alongside that, you've got the high quality leathers too, and those come in on the swooshes and around the lacing unit. So down to those swooshes, again, it's double swooshes. So forget about that for just now and focus in on the materials and the quality that goes in there, and see the contrast between those leather swooshes and the suede on the upper. And then up above those guys, you can see the lace stays, the eyelets that wrap around the lacing system on there, with this very chunky leather going on there because it's double layered as well, which gives you a really kind of sense of the solid leathers going on in that part of the shoe. So the lacing system and the swooshes in the leathers, and then the upper, especially on the toe, and the tongues in the suedes to give you that contrast of material. So that's probably the biggest talking point, in my opinion, about the shoe. And then behind that comes the standard stuff that you pretty much get on all Sacai and Nike collaborations, because that double effect is the big thing. And that was one of the reasons why I went out and bought myself a pair of the BLAZER mids, because I really wanted to see what was going on with the double effect, especially on the tongue. So let's go up and have a look at those tongues again, but this time, instead of it being the materials that we're looking at, it's the actual double tongue placement that goes on there, which of course is an amazing detail. Having a second tongue below the first tongue is kind of important. In terms of the colours of the shoes, again, it's the brown ones that give us a better idea of what's going on, because they have the two layers of colours, the British tan and then the red behind them, which is the same as the swooshes on the side, the British tan and the red behind that. So you see that double layer effect, and then two major elements to look for in that double layer effect are that the branding on the tongues is different for the front tongue and the back tongue. I think I'm right in saying that the front tongue supports more Nike branding, and then the back tongue supports more Sacai branding. There's still the Nike branding in there as well, but it's a matter of balance between the Nike and the Sacai, and Sacai is much more predominant on the back tongue on those two tongues. And then also that unfinished feel, which Off-White made popular, but other shoes have been doing for decades. You look around the outside edge of the tongue and you see that unfinished feel and the foam coming out from the inside. But also if you look back onto the top line and the inner lining of the shoe, you can see that unfinished feel continued there as well. And you can see onto the insoles. But rather than looking at a clumsy picture of the insoles like this, we thank Nike or whoever it is that have started to do this and bringing us the actual insoles taken out so you can see what's going on. Very simple insole on these guys, all block one colour, and then at the back the Nike and the Sacai branding melded together. And I'm really happy to see that there, because these are BLAZER lows, so there isn't the space on the back to have branding panels like you would on BLAZER mids, and it's this exactly Nike Sacai branding that you saw on the back of the BLAZER mids, which is lost now in the lows. So it's great to see that repeated on these insoles, because it's a detail in the shoe, piece of branding on the shoe that I missed from the mids. So it's great to see that on the insoles there. And then down to the swooshes again, and this time we'll use the black ones, since I think we already looked at the brown ones because of the materials we were looking at, but this time with the black ones you see the white and maybe black or maybe dark grey on the swooshes, but again it's that double swoosh effect. And then either side of that you can go forward a little bit to the mudguard and see the exaggerated mudguards with a lot more coming out of the midsole, and then back onto the heel and see the exaggerated heel with a lot more coming out of the midsole again on there. So they're the main kind of hits of extravagance and too much on the shoe. It's the double tongues, the double swooshes. I talked about the layering on the lacing system as well being a bit extra, and then more coming out of the midsole onto things like the mudguard as well. They do come with double laces, and that's easiest to see. I think this time I'm going to go back to the brown and the red ones to see those double laces on there, but that's more of it's not really a fixture, because you could probably take the whole lot out and just go with one lace if you wanted to. So the double laces is just more of a gimmick, whereas the rest is a fixture of the design on the shoe. And then the last thing I think to do is to go have a look at the outsoles, because they're not gum soles, just that point. The BLAZER mids that I had were gum soles with the white midsole wrapped around the edge, whereas I think both pairs of these are done in a white outsole with the white midsole around the edge. So it's a small detail worth keeping your eye out for on these shoes. So hopefully, all that said, we're done with two Nike BLAZER lows, and I said mids, lows from the Sacai brand. One's called British Tan and the other one's called Iron Grey, and two great looking shoes, well worth getting your eye, getting into your collection if you're looking for them, or shoes to wear yourselves. But like I said, drop date wise, anything from July 30th to August 4th and beyond, or already if you're living in South Africa, getting yourself a pair, because they're apparently dropped there as this video is being made. So that's today's video. Hopefully you guys appreciate that. The Olympics is kind of gathering pace. Sadly, that pace is sort of positive and equi-negative at the moment. There's plenty of people not happy about the Olympics here in Japan, but we'll see where that goes. Maybe once they get started, the positive energy of seeing great sporting events and great feats of sport and achievement will make it a more positive thing. But right now, doesn't seem that way. For now though, it's time for me to wrap this one up. Thank you guys for checking out the content, and the only thing left to do is to say that I do this every single day, bring you content on YouTube every single day, 7 days a week. And because I do it every single day, that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.